The mud squelches under my boots. Smoke, beer, sweat in the air. Outside the door there is noise. The crackle of torches, the muffled hum of voices. This is not a resting place. This is a 13th century tavern. Here you don't ask for a name. They look at your hands. And whether you sit with your back to the wall, the hearth crackles. The cauldron is bubbling. There's a game in the corner, an argument at the table. Someone sleeping under the bench, or pretending to be. Every night here could be the last. Stay to the end and you'll find out what it's like to enter an early medieval tavern and what it takes to get back out. The door doesn't open. It yields like a wet sack stretched over a bone. Outside there are only winds, slush, the stench of gutters and corpse sludge. Inside, not warmth, but a pressing gut into which you fall as if you had stepped not into a house, but into the body of something alive, evil, and long hungry. The boards of the door are wet, black, splintered. They bear the marks of palms, blows, boots. The bottom edge is covered in manure. The hinges creak low, pulling like a rusty howl. The threshold is unforgiving. It's slippery, dirty, smells of urine. When you go in, you can't help but duck. And this is important too. Here from the threshold, you are not a guest, but less. The first thing that rushes in is the air. It is heavy, hot, smells like a slaughterhouse, like a beer vat, like unwashed bone. Smoke, sour beer, overcooked onions, rotten meat, straw, human sweat, smoked fish, wine and vinegar, cheap incense, burnt wax, blood, dung, and ashes. It's not an odor, it's a punch in the face. Next is the sound. It's not loud, but it's deep. Muttering, heavy breathing, quiet creaking of boards, splashing of liquid in a mug, whispering, spitting, muffled clatter of dice, a sharp shout in the corner. Sometimes a song, sometimes a moan, sometimes a squeal, but most importantly, the silence afterward. Because in that silence, something is cooking. The stairs are like knives. You can't see them, but you can feel them in your back. From the tables, from the corners, from the gaps between the candles. People don't turn around, they just watch. Who came in? What are they wearing? Any weapons? Weapons visible, alone? With money, too clean, too bold, too lively? In the Middle Ages, the tavern was not a place of recreation, but a place of necessity. According to chronicles and archaeological excavations, York, Paris, Dansk, Prague, the entrance to the tavern was not decorated or protected. On the contrary, the entrance led directly into the common room, without a corridor, without transition. Everyone knew you walk in and you are visible. You're part of it, or prey. The floor is viscous, like porridge. Some of it is earth, some of it is planks, some of it is just rotted straw bedding. Every step is slick. Shoes stick. The cold mixes with the heat from the hearth. Everything is on you at once. The walls, the ceiling, the smell, the waiting. If you don't know where to go, it's best not to move. The hearth is in the center. There's a light, but they don't let you in. Closer to the fire are the ones who've been here a long time, or those who pay, or the ones who can fight. Everyone else is on the edges, in the shadows, in the cold, and you too. You got in, but that doesn't mean you've been accepted. It means you've been noticed, appreciated, and while you're standing there, the door has already closed behind you, and the beast you walk in doesn't always let go. In a medieval tavern, there are never any insiders at the table, not because there aren't any, but because the concept of one's own doesn't apply here. Yesterday, a man laughed with you over a mug. Today, he bets on you in a game. Tomorrow, you won't live to see the dawn. It depends on the weather, on the beer, on the looks, and especially the silence. The tables are roughly knocked down, dug into the ground, covered with ale, blood, grease, and old oaths. The surface is rough, scribbled with knives, burned with candles. Behind them sit, not together, but side by side, people who have no common past and probably no common future, each drinking but keeping score. Each eats but holds a mug with one hand and a knife with the other. You sit down, and immediately you feel the walls begin to breathe. Your gaze rises slowly. Not jerkily, as if lazily, but you feel it. You're being scanned. By the boots, who you are. By the cloak, where you're from. In your eyes, why. If you speak too fast, you're not from around here. If you don't speak, you're definitely hiding something. Smiling means you don't know where you're going. Near the hearth is the warmest and most dangerous place. It is not given. It is taken or given. It's where those who have lost much, but survived, those who have seen dozens of deaths, those who don't need to raise their voices, they're known and they're not touched. For now, by the walls are passers-by, newcomers, fugitives, those who didn't have time to occupy the best, or those who chose the shadows on purpose. Because shadow is not weakness, it's observation. And at the tables, everyone is watching, everyone's listening, everyone pretends to drink. But in reality, they're counting. Who's drinking how much, who's with whom, who owes whom. Historical chronicles indicate a clear social structure within taverns, even in the absence of a formal hierarchy. Thus, in the city taverns of the 14th century, York, Prague, Lyon, Lubeck, Novgorod, the placement at the tables followed not status but influence. It could be a rich merchant, but sitting against the wall because he is not respected here, or a peasant who took a seat by the hearth because he was the first to hit someone yesterday. Dice is at one table, bargaining at another, whispering in the corner. One table is wet with beer, the other with blood. Someone throws a coin, someone throws a look. Someone throws a man across the bench. Sitting at a table is not a vacation. It's a ritual. It's a position. It's a risk. You walked in and sat down. That means you're in the game. Whoever's next to you can be an ally, or an observer, or an executioner. Everybody drinks, but nobody's really drunk. You don't lose your head. They just cut it off. And if the mug touches yours, don't be happy. It's not a toast. It's a challenge, or a test. Because at a table in a medieval tavern, every move means more than words. And when someone serves you bread, look to see if it's poisoned or traded for your purse. And if someone smiles, run or cut first. Because there are strangers here, and strangers are everyone, including you. When the door closes behind me and the darkness of the tavern embraces me, the smell is followed by a sound. And it's not like anything called a melody. It's a rumble, a crackle, a hiss interspersed with barks, mutterings, and screams. It's not music. It's the language of the beast whose belly you've just entered. Somewhere closer to the hearth, a hoarse voice draws out a ballad. About love, about betrayal, about a king who will never return. He falsifies, but no one interrupts. Because they know that if they shut the singer up, they'll have to listen to the others. And the others have their own choir. A drunken peasant argues that salt has gone up in price. A mercenary argues that he lost at dice unfairly. An old woman yells at a wench for spilling chowder on his foot. The voices cling to each other like stink to the walls. Each one like a punch, each one spiced with menace. In between are the sounds of the tavern body, the creak of benches, the clatter of mugs, the fall of a wooden spoon. Someone stands up, abruptly with a grinding sound. Someone tosses a coin, slowly, deliberately. Someone speaks in a whisper, but that whisper is the most audible, because in it is what is hidden from the songs. The girls running between the tables call out in a voice as grated as the floor beneath the hearth. Tired, ominous, and yet inviting. If lucky, they laugh. If not, they bang an empty mug on the table. Historians of urban life and criminal chronicles of the 14th through 15th centuries, London, Lyon, Lubeck, Krakow, note, in the evening in taverns, the sound level exceeded decent conversation by times. The documents often use the phrases lewd and offensive singing, men arguing to the point of loud shouting and hand-wringing, swearing heard in the street. Music, if there was any, was only in the form of a one-voice ballad, more often than not in the background. And the main noise landscape of the tavern was feuds, drunken arguments, gnashing, threats, and cries of pain. And yet this is a normal rhythm. In this hum, people feel like they're in the womb. Safer than silence, because silence in a tavern is like before a storm, like before a blow, like before someone grabs a knife. The whispers in the corner are the loudest. It's heard by those who don't need to hear it, and those who should hear it don't. One person leans over, and suddenly the other person cries out. Chair flies off, a mug in the face. Loud laughter is like a cover, like armor, because the person laughing is either drunk or dangerous. Somewhere in the far corner, someone is sobbing. A girl, a man, an old man, no one comes near. Because tears in a tavern are like a curse, you can only ignore them. Otherwise, it'll draw you in. The tavern sounds like a city with nowhere to go. It breathes noisily, speaks intermittently, sings when it wants blood, and is silent when someone dies. Here sound is power, here swearing is conversation, and song is just a pause between fights. And if you think it's quiet, check to see if anyone's looking at you. Because in this place, it's better to hear swearing than no swearing. Silence only comes afterward, when it's late. Tavern food is not a joy, but an excuse to stay alive another day. It is not a table. It is not a meal. It's not a choice. It is a warm, murky, viscous mass in a cauldron that has been simmering since the week before last, and will continue to boil as long as the hearth breeze. One boiler for everyone. It's not washed, it's refilled. It has no bottom in time. In it boils the memories of all who have eaten here before you. Cabbage, turnips, beans, a handful of onions, rare skins, pork bone, corned beef scraps, water, fat, ash, everything in it, all one flavor. Gray, thick, slightly astringent, smoky and tired. You can find anything inside: a chipped tooth, a black vein, a rusty nail, half an onion, or a silent drop of lard. No one complains. No one is surprised. Everything is edible until it kills. They take turns. Or right, he who pays gets it first. The one who fights gets more often. The newcomer sits against the wall and watches the others dip bread into the greasy edge of the cauldron. Hands in a tavern are instead of cutlery. Spoons are scarce. They're passed around, licked, stolen, broken. If you're lucky, a bowl. If not, a crust of bread. Or fingers. Everything is dipped. Everything is shared. All washed down with ale that foams more than it drinks. Yesterday's bread. Or the day before yesterday. It doesn't break, it crumbles. You dip it to soften it. Without chowder, it's like a brick. Bread is carefully kept in a cloth, behind the back, under the apron. It's always with you, even when you're nobody. The smell of food is the smell of smoked poverty. The cinders, sauerkraut, meat steam, burnt beans, ash, grease, and the spirit of those sitting around. No spices, sometimes salt, if anyone has any left. Sometimes pepper if there's a merchant sitting on the table. But more often it's just a warm mass that doesn't taste good, but it warms. Sources of the 13th and 15th centuries confirm food in village and road taverns was monotonous, cheap and cooked in large portions without individual approach. Le Ménagier de Paris, an English parish, lists mention potage commun, common chowder, to which water was refilled every day and leftovers added. Archaeologists find charred bean grains, bones with fatty residue, fish heads and ashes with a layer of fat, and cereal in the ash pans of taverns and taverns, all of which speak of the endless, incessant cooking of the same thing. Fat is a trophy. It is collected from the surface like gold from a river. A drop of fat means today is a lucky day. Today your hands don't shake. Today you can get warm. Sometimes they lick it off a spoon. Sometimes it's smeared on a crust. Sometimes you just rub it on your lips. In a tavern, no one asks what's in the chowder. Not because it's not interesting, but because it doesn't matter. What matters is that it's hot. It has to be thick. That something inside resists the emptiness. The poor man's food is not a meal. It's a mechanism. It's a way to drown hunger in a boiling porridge of salt, cabbage, and smoke. It's a pause between fight and death, between play and flight. As long as the cauldron is boiling, the tavern lives. As long as your hands are dipping bread, you're in the system. And if there's no chowder, there's no you. Because in this place, you exist exactly until the last spoonful. Then you're nothing. Beer at the tavern is not a drink. It's a ritual, a breath, a payment, a punch, a gesture, a promise. Here it is, poured not for flavor or fun. Here it is drunk not for intoxication, but to be in, to take a seat at the table, to show, I am just like you, or vice versa. I am not afraid of any of you. It is cloudy, thick, and often warm. Color went from dark amber to gray-green. Bitter, sticky. It tastes of fermentation, ash, wood, sometimes urine. Foam on top, sediment below. It's not the ale of the city's merchants' inns. It is a beer of the poor roads, brewed from barley, herbs, sometimes with nettles, wormwood, thyme. The mug is heavy, wooden, sometimes upholstered in metal, with cracks, with remnants of yesterday's foam around the edges. It's held like a weapon, because it is a weapon. A blow to the temple, a throw to the face, a kick to the stomach. The first object that goes flying in a tavern is almost always a mug. They don't drink when they want to, they drink when they have to. Before a game, to increase faith. Before a fight, to dull fear. After a blow, to stay human. Drink slowly to be part of a conversation. They drink fast so they don't have to hear the answers. Sometimes they serve each other. Sometimes just to see if he'll take it. Because to accept the mug is to join the game, and to refuse is a challenge. 15th century historical sources mention beer as a negotiating tool in the context of contracts, hiring, and recognitions. Records from English parish archives and Germantown books record formulas such as, the cup was given as a sign of peace, or he struck, but only after the beer. In the statutes of the Holy Roman Empire and in the regulations of the guilds, the beer toast was a form of assurance of a transaction, and at the same time, the beginning of a quarrel. Beer is bought, but less often paid for, sometimes in coin, sometimes a favor, sometimes just a look. You'll pour if you know who I am. The girl with the tray doesn't ask. If it's a coin, she takes it. If not, she waits. If she doesn't wait, she knows someone else will pay. Or that the payment has already come, a different one. There are fewer drunks than you'd think. There's no real booze here. Everyone holds on to the table, some to the knife. A drunk is vulnerable, and vulnerable is someone you look back at, first with laughter, then with anger. Beer is like noise. It fills pauses, it connects people, it blurs boundaries, but it also makes them more dangerous. One toast can end in a fight, one refusal, a knife in the side, one mug is a pretext for murder. And none of this is overkill. It's a rule. Beer is not part of the meal here. It's the center of it. It's logic. It's engine. It's on the table, in the hand, in the air. It's part of the tavern, like the smoke, like the screams, like the shadows on the walls. And when it hits the table, it's not just a sound, it's a decision. To drink or not to drink is not a matter of taste, but of life. And if the mug is broken, it means someone's story has come to an end here. Loudly, as always, with beer and no goodbye. There is noise, crackling, smoke in the hall. The air is heavy with steam from chowder, wet straw, and other people's breath. And in the midst of it all, women. Not as a detail, not as decoration, but as structure. Like an internal support beam that holds everything together. They don't decorate, they're decisive. At first glance, they're serving girls. Skirts above their ankles, a tray with mugs in their hands, a rag on their belt. They run between the tables, turn around, laugh, wave their hands, spit off someone's profanity. But it's a role, a mask. Underneath it is not mirth. Underneath it is survival. Every one of them knows a day without revenue is a day without food. A day without caution is a day with a bruise. And an evening without a knife is a fool's errand. And that's why there's a blade under the hem, often old, serrated, but sharpened. Some carry needles, sharpened spokes, bone splinters. Not to attack, but to answer, and to answer quickly. Bundles of herbs under the apron, mint, wormwood, thistle, sometimes wolfsbane. It can be spice, medicine, poison. They know what they need to slip you to sleep, to induce vomiting, to slow your breathing, to keep you awake. And if a girl pours beer but doesn't make eye contact, maybe she's already picked out who's going to be gone tomorrow. By themselves, they belong to no one. Not the tavern, not their husbands, not their customers, but they know how to be needed. They serve the mugs, listen to the conversations, clear the table, and hear more than those who speak. Every word set aside, every name memorized, every movement appreciated. The hostess is a special figure. She is the law, not by rule, but by look. If she commands it, the chowder will be served. If not, no food, no words, no respect. She knows every man who came in and every man who didn't come out. She's got keys in her pocket, not just to the pantry, to doors, to silence. Sources of urban and village life of the 13th and 15th centuries confirm that women played a key role in taverns. According to tax books and court records, 6 out of 10 taverns had a woman as a hostess, and often she was a witness, executor, or customer of quiet eliminations. In Cologne, 1371, Canterbury, 1420, and Novgorod, 1482, there are cases of a woman poisoning an official, warning a fugitive criminal, or punishing a customer for non-payment. They laugh, but their eyes don't smile. Their gaze is like ashes from an old hearth, cold but still warm inside. They don't listen, they read. They don't play along, they control. And if one of them goes missing, no one asks, because everyone knows she's either gone or she took someone with her. In a medieval tavern, a woman is not a weakness. She is a mechanism, a support, and a threat. She holds the room like a seam holds an old cloth, imperceptible but unbreakable. And if she breaks, the whole fabric tears. As long as she pours beer, life goes on. But if she suddenly stops pouring, it means that someone in the audience is doomed. When the tavern starts playing, it means everything else has been said, or doesn't matter. Games here aren't about fun. It's about territory. It's about power. It's about the chance to pull yourself out of the mud or drown someone else. The bones rattle like a drum before an execution. Not just a sound, a signal, an explosion in the silence. They roll across the table, across the board, across the palm of my hand. Someone tosses it with a flick. Some are spaced out slowly, as if giving themselves up for judgment. The table stops. Everyone counts. Always out loud, so that there's no doubt, or so that everyone who shouldn't have heard could hear. The cards here are dirty, scuffed, homemade, sometimes out of prayer parchment, reshaped to look like a king, sometimes from old cloth, drawn in charcoal. The figures are obliterated. Colors are not needed. The main thing is to figure out who beat who, or better yet, who outsmarted who. It's not a game of interest. They play for dinner, for a mug, for boots, for a knife, for a word. It's a game of survival. 1 man put up his cape. 2, his girlfriend. 3, silence. 4, a confession that benefits no one. You can win a warm night here, or you can win something that will keep you silent for the rest of your life, if there is one. Sometimes the stakes are life. Not in the literal sense. It's that when you lose, someone doesn't walk out the door. Or out the door, but not alone, with someone whispering in the corner, watching. Sometimes death is unofficial, sometimes it's overlooked, but everyone knows that in this game, the last word can be silent. 15th century historical chronicles from England, France, the Holy Roman Empire, and Scandinavia record dozens of instances where scuffles and murders in taverns began with a dice. City ordinances prescribe limiting gambling to the first mug or to 3 coins. But these rules were not followed in the village taverns. They gambled till they bled, or into the night, or until the loser passed out. Games are like the dance of death. Everything seems simple. A throw, a number, a scream, an exhale. But in every movement is a tension you can cut with a knife. Some people actually do it. Players are like fighters, only without the blades. But everyone knows where the cuts are. Who's hot-headed, who's cowardly, who's lucky, who pretends, who's willing to die for a bet, and who wants it to happen. The game can last an hour. It could be a moment. One wrong look and the dice are gone. Someone gets up, someone falls. Some laugh, some just clench their fingers to remember who they should pay back or who he shouldn't have lost to at all. In this tavern, every throw is a stroke of fate, not a metaphor. Action. You throw and listen to it roll, not a dice, time, opportunity. You win, you eat today. You lose, today you disappear. Because in a medieval tavern, there are no games. There are bets, and you are one of them. Above the hall is a staircase, narrow, steep, creaky, covered in marks and abrasions. Each step is a compromise. If you want silence, you pay. If you want to disappear, go up. But even if you pay, no one promises you'll come down. The room upstairs is not a bedroom. It's a space outside of time and outside of the law. No signs, no keys. Just a wooden door with a deadbolt and walls that hear more than all the ears downstairs. This place is not a place to sleep. It's a sanctuary and a trap. Sometimes it is taken down for sleeping. To rest your head on a straw bag, to rest from the road, to hide from the rain or from those on the trail. Sometimes to hide someone other than yourself. A girl, a wounded man, a bag of salt, a map, a lie, a corpse. Sometimes it's bought with silence. To say things you can't say in the audience, to make a deal, to sign, to give, to take, to betray, to kill, negotiate a price, or death. Sometimes they just sit, without words, in the dark, against the wall, waiting for someone who's not coming. There's no furniture here. A bunting is a clump of straw in a sack. A blanket is a cloak. The pillow is someone's shirt. It smells of wood, sweat, damp, and time. Sometimes blood, not fresh, old, rubbed into the boards. The landlady doesn't ask. She just gives the candle. Or she doesn't. The walls are thin. The boards shake when someone throws a mug downstairs. The whole tavern can be heard through the floor. But those upstairs have learned to talk so they can't hear. Quietly, slowly, between sips, between glances, without saying too much. Because in here, every word could be worth more than the room itself. Historical sources, court documents, city ordinances, denunciations of the Inquisition, chronicles of pilgrims and traders. Note that the rooms on the second floor of taverns and inns were used not only as a place of rest, but also as areas for closed negotiations, secret deals, treason, buying and selling weapons, hiring people, transfer of forbidden books or poisons. Cologne, London, Florence, Novgorod, 14th and 15th centuries. Sometimes these rooms disappeared with the guest, burned, locked up, boarded up. The landlady didn't comment. She just gave out another one. Because in these walls, life was not by the day, but by the deal. Whoever goes up there chooses to be out of sight, but in doing so, he becomes closer to the hands of others. There are no witnesses, only wooden planks that remember everything but don't speak. The room upstairs isn't a place. It's status. It's a risk. It's a bet. If you're there, you need more than warmth. You need to disappear, or revenge, or a chance to make a deal with someone you can't see in the room. But remember, the walls can hear you even if you whisper, and those who pay for silence seldom get peace. This room is where things begin that can never be undone. The tavern lives by different rules. It's not a place to argue, it's a place to test strength, not with words, but with the body. A fight is not a breakdown. It's a continuation of a conversation, just in a different language. It always starts with nothing. A glance, a pitcher pushed aside, an accidental elbow, or an overconfident movement. Here a gesture is already a cruelty, because everything is on the edge. Fatigue, dust from the road, beer, hunger, anger, duty, spark, and it all flies. A mug first, or a fist, or a chair, sometimes a person. He flies into the boards, or into a greasy cauldron, or someone else. And at that moment, everything becomes simple. Whoever stands up gets hit. Whoever doesn't have time gets hit. Whoever hides remembers who to be afraid of. No one calls the guards. No court intervenes. Here, everything is decided on the spot, quickly, irrevocably. Spoons, stools, boots fly into the dust, sometimes teeth. Blood is part of the decor. It is wiped up like spilt ale, roughly with a rag, without horror. The hostess is the sole arbiter. If she says enough, the strike may not happen. But if she doesn't say anything, someone had to get theirs. Sometimes she intervenes. Sometimes she just gives a second cup to whoever's left standing. Power trumps right. According to chronicles of Rouen 20th centuries, especially in England, France, the Holy Roman Empire, and Russia, Taverns were recognized as places of high risk. Up to 60% of all registered fights and serious bodily injuries took place in them. In London, only for 1 year, 1393, more people died in taverns than in prison walls. The statutes of Prague, Lubeck, and Toulouse expressly forbade carrying knives, axes, and rods in drinking establishments. But in all descriptions of the time, the knife was considered part of clothing. Everyone knew if you sat in a tavern, you had to be ready to stand up with a weapon or lie down in blood. Fighting is venting. It's a trial, it's a spectacle, and it's a landing. Whoever flew too high gets hit. Whoever laughed too loud gets hit. Whoever kept quiet might survive, or be the first to be cut off because he sat too quietly. Women don't get involved, unless the blood spills on the kitchen rag. Then it's the ladle, or a broom, or just a look from the hostess that would make even someone who's already got a mug stop. No one apologizes after a fight. No one heals. Nobody talks. No one picks their teeth, or the body, or leftover bread. They sit back down, pour, drink, like nothing happened, because nothing has happened. Just the evening, just the tavern, just the fight. You don't have to be strong to hit here. You just have to be the first, or the last one left standing. And every night someone gets hit, someone falls, someone doesn't get up. Because in a medieval tavern, fighting isn't an aberration, it's a rule. And there's only one way to break a rule, and that's when the person breaking it is carried off. The tavern doesn't have a clock. It doesn't close on a schedule. It closes when all has been drunk, all has been said, and no one breathes louder than anyone else. Sometimes it doesn't close at all. It just shuts down, like an animal that's had its fill and is waiting for its next victim. Getting out of here is like getting out of a jaw saw. If you succeed, you're different. You're not the same person who came in. That one was upbeat, confident, naive. This one has scratched hands, a torn cloak, eyes that now stare around. Every night in the tavern is a fight, and if you're on your feet in the morning, you've already survived. But that doesn't guarantee you'll be let go. There could be someone at the door who you've lost to, or someone who's in your way, or who just remembers your voice. Sometimes you walk out and you fall right down. Sometimes you don't even make it to the threshold. In the morning, the tavern is silent. Empty mugs, bones on the table, straw with stains. Someone lies against the wall, someone under the table, some in the room upstairs, and they won't all wake up. The hostess serves water, sometimes a look. A look means don't stay too long, because the longer you're here after dawn, the more likely it is that the night is still here. Historical chronicles record that night incidents in taverns were the norm. According to the court records of London, York, Toulouse, Gdansk, Novgorod, and Bremen for the 13th-15th centuries, up to 30% of all murders, disappearances, and disappearances without witnesses occurred in taverns. Many of them were officially closed when investigated, but reopened a month later under a new name, with the same hostess and the same hearth. Sometimes a person comes out and doesn't remember what happened, who hit him, who they drank with, what he signed, who he went to bed with, who he promised. Sometimes people don't come out because they don't know they were waiting for them at the exit. And no one calls the guards. No one complains. It's every man for himself. He who can't get up, lies down. Whoever gets up, walks. He who walks pretends he didn't see the mistress carrying out the bloody shirt. The tavern exit is not the door, it's the final throw. If you're lucky, you'll exhale outside. You'll see the sky, hear the rooster, and you'll realize you're alive. But if you don't remember how you got outside, maybe you were just thrown out. Because the tavern is not a place to sleep, it's a vent, and whoever comes out of it alive never laughs out loud again. The tavern of the Middle Ages is not about beer and song. It's about people who live on the edge, between hunger and fever, between word and blow, between life and what comes after. This is not a place of rest. This is where they survive, hide, negotiate, disappear. Here chowder boils, bones sound, shirts tear, mugs rattle. And who goes out in the morning is not always the one who decides. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know what it's like to be not a hero, but a survivor. We're talking about the real Middle Ages here. No glitz, no nights against the sunset, just dust, cold, blood and smoke, because the reality of history is not a legend. It's a hard floor beneath your feet and a warm cauldron in the dark while it's still boiling.